The space station called Horizon's Edge floated in the darkness between stars. It was a neutral place where different alien species came to talk and make deals. On this day, leaders from 12 different worlds had gathered for the most important meeting in 50 years. They called it the Galactic Accord Summit. Park Yuna stood at the center of the Great Hall. She was Earth's Supreme Chancellor, the highest leader of all humanity. She was not tall. She was not loud. She did not carry weapons or wear armor. She was simply a woman of 63 years who believed that words were stronger than guns. For 30 years, she had kept peace between Earth and the galaxy. When other species threatened humanity, she talked to them. When they cheated human traders, she negotiated new deals. When they laughed at Earth's small fleet, she smiled and invited them to dinner. Many aliens thought she was weak. They were wrong. Yuna looked at the crowd of alien faces before her. Some had scales. Some had fur. Some had no faces at all, just clouds of glowing gas held together by technology. She loved them all, even the ones who hated her. "Friends," she began, her voice calm and warm. "We have spent too many years fighting over rocks and gas and empty space. Our children deserve better. Today, I ask you to sign this accord. Not because it benefits Earth, not because it benefits any single world, but because it benefits all of us." In the back of the hall, the Velith delegation watched with cold eyes. The Velith were tall creatures with hard shells covering their bodies like armor. They had 4 arms and mouths full of sharp teeth. Their empire controlled 47 star systems, and they wanted more. Ambassador Torin was their leader at this summit. He had served the Velith Dominion for over 200 years. He had seen species rise and fall. He had watched empires crumble. And he had learned one simple truth: the galaxy belonged to the strong. Torin looked at Park Yuna and felt nothing but disgust. This small, soft creature had somehow convinced half the galaxy to follow her. She had built alliances through kindness instead of force. She had made the Velith look like villains simply by being gentle. It was time to end her. Torin pressed a hidden button on his chair. Somewhere in the station, a weapon that should not have passed security came to life. Park Yuna was speaking about the future when the shot came. A single beam of blue energy cut through the ceremonial shields that protected the stage. It struck her in the chest. She stopped mid-sentence, her eyes going wide with surprise. The hall erupted into chaos. Aliens screamed and ran in every direction. Security forces rushed toward the stage. But it was already too late. Lieutenant Commander Kim Do-yun reached the Chancellor first. He was her personal guard, a soldier who had protected her for 15 years. He caught her as she fell, his hands pressing against the wound that could not be healed. "Stay with me," he begged. "Help is coming. Just stay with me." Yuna looked up at him. Her eyes were calm, even now. "Even dying." "Do-hyun," she whispered. "Find my daughter. Find Ji-woo." "I will. I promise. But you need to hold on." She smiled weakly. Blood floated around her in small red bubbles because of the low gravity. "Tell her to remember what we fight for. Tell her we fight for tomorrow, not for revenge." Her eyes closed. Her body went still. Park Yuna, the woman who had kept humanity safe for 3 decades, was dead. Do-hyun held her for a long moment. Around him, the station was falling into madness. He could hear weapons firing somewhere. He could hear diplomats crying out in fear. But all he could see was the face of the woman he had failed to protect. Then he looked up and saw Ambassador Torin watching from across the hall. The Velith was not running. He was not afraid. He was smiling. In that moment, Do-hyun understood. This was not an accident. This was not the work of some lone killer. This was murder planned and executed by the Velith Dominion. He gently laid the Chancellor's body down and stood up. His hands were covered in her blood. His heart was full of fire. But he did not attack. He did not scream. He simply looked at Tauren and made a promise without words. You will pay for this. 12 hours later, Earth received the news. The reaction was immediate. In cities across the planet, people stopped what they were doing and stared at screens showing the Chancellor's face. Some cried. Some raged. Some simply stood in silence, unable to believe what they were seeing. Park Yuna had been more than a leader. She had been a symbol, a mother figure to billions, a reminder that humanity could be better than its violent past. Now she was gone, murdered by aliens who thought humans were too weak to fight back. The United Earth Defense Council met within hours. They gathered in a bunker deep beneath the mountains of Switzerland, the same bunker built centuries ago for wars that never came. Generals and admirals filled the room, their faces grim. At the head of the table sat Admiral Choi Sun-ho. He was 71 years old, with gray hair cut short and eyes that had seen too much death. He had spent his entire life in the military, rising through the ranks while hoping he would never have to use what he knew. That hope was dead now. The Velith think they have broken us, he said, his voice like stone. They think that without Chancellor Park, humanity will fall apart. They think we will argue and blame each other and forget about them. He stood up and looked at every face in the room. They are wrong. The Chancellor believed in peace. She believed in talking instead of fighting. She was the best of us. His hands tightened into fists. But she is gone now, and the Velith need to learn that humanity has another face. A face we have kept hidden for a very long time. Admiral Choi turned to his aide. Send the order. Which order, sir? The Admiral's eyes were cold. Wake the sleepers. Across the solar system, in hidden bases that appeared on no map, machines began to hum. Soldiers who had waited in the shadows for decades received messages on secure channels. Ships that should not exist powered up their engines. The galaxy had poked a sleeping giant. Now the giant was opening its eyes, and it was angry. Antarctica was the coldest place on Earth. Nothing lived there except penguins and scientists. Or so the galaxy believed. Deep beneath the ice, buried under 3 kilometers of frozen rock, there was a city that did not exist. It had no name on any official record. No satellite could see it. No alien spy had ever found it. For 60 years, it had waited in silence for a day that everyone prayed would never come. That day had arrived. Captain Yoon Mi-rae stood in the main hangar and watched as lights flickered on for the first time in months. She was 45 years old, with short black hair and a scar running down the left side of her face. Her right arm was not made of flesh and bone. It was metal and wire, stronger than any human limb should be. She was a sleeper, one of 2,000 soldiers who had given up their normal lives to become something more, something dangerous, something the galaxy was never supposed to know about. Her second-in-command, Sergeant Han Tai-woo, walked up beside her. He was younger, only 32, with a friendly face that hid a mind built for war. He had been Mara's partner for 11 years. He knew her better than anyone. So it really happened, Tai-woo said quietly. They actually killed her. Mi-rae nodded. Her jaw was tight. Her eyes were wet. They actually killed her. What are our orders? She held up a small data device. The message on it was short. Only 3 words. Wake the Tempest. Tai-woo's eyes went wide. They're letting us use it? I thought that was only for the end of everything. This is the end of everything, Tai-woo. The end of pretending. The end of hiding. Mi-rae crushed the device in her metal hand. The end of mercy. She walked toward the center of the hangar, where a massive door was slowly sliding open. Behind that door was something the galaxy had never seen. Something that would change everything. The Tempest. It was not just a ship. It was a monster made of metal, 3 kilometers long, covered in weapons that broke every galactic treaty ever signed. Its hull was painted black, darker than space itself. Looking at it was like looking at a hole in reality. The galaxy believed that humanity's biggest ship was the Unity, a diplomatic carrier with only small guns for defense. They thought humans were peaceful builders, not warriors. They thought 30 years of quiet meant 30 years of weakness. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Myray climbed into a transport shuttle and flew toward the Tempest's main dock. As she approached, she could see other shuttles arriving from hidden bases across the solar system. Soldiers, engineers, pilots. 40,000 people who had trained in secret for this moment. The ship's interior was vast and cold. Myray made her way to the bridge, where Admiral Choi was already waiting. He stood at the center of the command platform, surrounded by screens showing data from every system on the ship. "Captain Yoon," he said. "Welcome aboard, Admiral." She saluted. "The sleepers are ready. All units report full combat status." "Good." Choi's face was tired but determined. "I'm going to address the crew. I want you beside me." They walked to a raised platform at the front of the bridge. Choi pressed a button, and suddenly his image appeared on every screen throughout the ship. 40,000 faces looked up at him. "Soldiers of Earth," he began. "You know why we are here. Chancellor Park Yuna is dead, murdered by the Velith Dominion, killed because she believed in peace, killed because she trusted that the galaxy would respond to kindness with kindness." He paused, letting the words sink in. She was wrong. Not about humanity. About them. The Velith do not understand kindness. They see it as weakness. They saw our Chancellor standing with open hands and thought she was begging. They did not realize she was holding back a storm. Choi looked directly into the camera. His eyes burned with cold fire. "For 60 years, we have hidden our true strength. We built ships in secret. We trained soldiers in shadow. We created weapons that would make the galaxy tremble. We did this not because we wanted war, but because we knew that one day, someone would force us into one. That day is here. The Velith have made their choice. Now they will face the results. We will not attack their civilians. We will not destroy their worlds. We are not monsters. But their military, their stations, their power to hurt others, we will erase it. Completely. Permanently." Chancellor Park believed in peace. "We will honor her memory by ending this war so quickly, so totally, that no one will ever again think humanity is safe to attack." He straightened his back and raised his voice. "We did not start this war, but we will finish it. All stations, prepare for departure. Set course for Velith border space." The bridge erupted into activity. Officers shouted orders. Engineers ran to their posts. The great engines of the Tempest began to roar, sending vibrations through the entire ship. Myray stood at her station and watched the main screen as the ship rose from its hidden dock beneath Europa's ice. Behind them, 72 other vessels followed. Battleships, carriers, destroyers, an entire fleet that had been built in pieces across a dozen moons. Assembled in secret and hidden until this very moment, Taiwu appeared beside her. He looked nervous but excited. "I never thought we'd actually do this." "Neither did I," Myray admitted. "I hoped we never would." "Do you think the Chancellor would approve?" Myray thought about it for a long moment. Park Yuna had spent her life avoiding violence. She had believed that humans were better than their bloody history. She had tried so hard to prove that peace was possible. "No," Myray finally said. "She wouldn't approve." But she's not here anymore. And the people who killed her need to understand something important. What's that? Moray's eyes hardened. When you kill the shepherd, you don't get the sheep. You get the wolves that were pretending to be sheep. The Tempest jumped into faster-than-light travel. Stars stretched into lines of white light. The ship shuddered as it tore a hole through space itself. In the distance, Novelith Dominion waited. They had 47 star systems, 10,000 warships, billions of soldiers bred for combat. They thought they were ready. They were not. The storm was coming. And it would not stop until the galaxy remembered why humanity had been feared long before it learned to love. The Velith military station called Cora 7 floated at the edge of Dominion space. It was a fortress made of metal and fire, home to 300 warships and 50,000 soldiers. Commander Voreth ruled this station with an iron claw. He had crushed rebellions. He had burned colonies. He had never lost a battle. When his sensors detected a single ship approaching, he laughed. One vessel? Voreth clicked his sharp teeth together in amusement. The humans send one ship against Cora 7? Are they surrendering? His officers joined in the laughter. The idea was absurd. Everyone knew humans were weak. Their chancellor had proven it by dying so easily. One ship meant nothing against the might of the Velith. Destroy it, Voreth ordered. Show these soft creatures what happens when they enter our space. 300 warships turned their weapons toward the approaching vessel. Thousands of guns powered up. Missiles loaded into their tubes. The Velith fleet was ready to turn the human ship into dust. Then they got a clear image of what they were facing. The laughter stopped. The Tempest emerged from the darkness like a nightmare taking form. It was massive, far bigger than any human ship the Velith had ever seen. Its black hull seemed to swallow light itself. Weapons covered every surface, more guns than some species had in their entire fleets. What is that? One officer whispered. Voreth's confidence cracked, but only for a moment. It does not matter how big it is. We have 300 ships. Fire everything. The Velith fleet unleashed hell. Thousands of energy beings crossed the void. Missiles streaked through space in glowing trails. Enough firepower to destroy a small moon flew toward the Tempest. None of it reached the hull. Lieutenant Beat Jisu sat at the weapons station on the Tempest bridge, watching the enemy fire approach. She was 38 years old, with steady hands and cold eyes. 15 years ago, the Velith had raided her colony world. They had killed her parents in front of her. They had murdered her little brother while he begged for mercy. She had waited a long time for this day. Shields holding, she reported calmly. Enemy weapons having zero effect. The Tempest shields were not normal shields. They were gravity wells, tiny black holes that pulled in energy and crushed it into nothing. The Velith weapons hit these invisible walls and simply vanished, like rain falling into an ocean. Captain Yoon Mai-ri watched the display with grim satisfaction. Return fire. Primary weapons only. With pleasure, Jisu replied. The Tempest's main guns were something new. Something terrible. They fired projectiles made of super-dense metal wrapped in antimatter. These projectiles traveled at nearly 1/3 the speed of light. When they hit something, they did not just explode. They erased. The first Velith warship simply stopped existing. One moment it was there, firing its weapons. The next moment there was only empty space where it had been. Not even debris remained. Jisu fired again. And again. And again. Commander Voreth watched in horror as his fleet melted away. 10 ships gone in seconds. Then 20. Then 50. His officers screamed at their consoles, trying to understand what was happening. How could one ship be doing this? Retreat. Voreth finally shouted. All ships fall back. Jump to safety. But Commander Alhilmu, the Tempest's tactical officer, had expected this. He activated the ship's jump blockers, machines that created a field preventing any faster-than-light travel. The Veloth ships tried to run, but their engines simply would not work. They were trapped. Captain Yoon opened a communication channel to the enemy fleet. Her face appeared on every Veloth screen. "Attention Veloth forces. This is Captain Yoon Myray of the Earth vessel Tempest. You wanted humanity's attention. You murdered our Chancellor to prove you were stronger than us." Her voice was ice. "You have our attention now. Was it worth it?" She cut the channel. The battle lasted 2 hours. It was not really a battle. It was an execution. The Veloth fought bravely, but bravery meant nothing against weapons they could not understand and shields they could not break. When it ended, not a single Veloth ship remained at Korra 7. News of the defeat spread through the Dominion like fire. At first, no one believed it. 300 ships destroyed by one enemy vessel? Impossible. A lie. Human propaganda. Then the same thing happened at Korra 12, then at Korra 19, then at Korra 31. The Tempest was not alone. Behind it came the rest of Earth's hidden fleet, 72 ships that had been built in secret over decades. They struck Veloth positions across the border, destroying military bases and scattering defense forces. And leading this assault was a ship called the Vengeance, commanded by Pak Jiwoo herself, the Chancellor's daughter. Jiwoo was only 34 years old. She had her mother's intelligence and her mother's face. But where Yuna had been soft, Jiwoo was hard. Where Yuna had offered open hands, Jiwoo came with closed fists. She had loved her mother more than anything in the universe. Now that love had turned to something else. Something dangerous. "Status report," she demanded from her command chair. "Korra 31 defense grid is down," her officer reported. "Enemy fleet destroyed. No human casualties. Move to the next target. Do not slow down. Do not stop." On the Veloth homeworld, High Salver Malrek received report after report of defeats. His generals stood before him, shaking with fear. This was not how it was supposed to happen. Killing the human leader was supposed to make them weak, not strong. How is this possible? Malrek demanded. Where did these ships come from? No one had an answer. In 3 weeks, humanity had destroyed over 2,000 Veloth warships. They had captured 15 star systems. They had done more damage than any enemy in Veloth history. And they were not stopping. Malrek looked at the map of his shrinking empire and felt something he had never felt before. Fear. Real fear. The humans were not just fighting back. They were hunting. The galaxy had many eyes, and all of them were watching humanity's war against the Veloth, on a world made entirely of crystal. The ancient beings called the Korath observed through sensors that could see across light years. They were the oldest species in the known galaxy, living for thousands of years inside bodies made of living stone. They had watched empires rise and fall for longer than most races had existed. Korath Prime, their leader, studied the battle data with growing amazement. The humans were hiding all of this? For how long? 60 years, at least, replied their ambassador, who had lived among humans. Perhaps longer. They are very good at keeping secrets. But why hide such power? With these weapons, they could have dominated half the galaxy. The ambassador made a sound like wind through broken glass. It was the Korath version of a sad laugh. That is what you do not understand about humans, Prime. They do not want to dominate. They want to be left alone. They hid their strength because they hoped they would never need to use it. And now? Now someone has made them very, very angry. Across the galaxy, other species were reaching similar conclusions. The Murthian Concordat, lizard-like traders who had done business with both humans and Velith, called an emergency meeting of their ruling council. "We must stop this war," the chief trader declared. "It is destroying our profits. Ships are afraid to travel. Trade routes are closing. We are losing billions every day." The council agreed. They sent their finest negotiator, a female named Thrin, to meet with the human fleet. She had ended wars before. She had made peace between enemies who had fought for centuries. Surely she could calm these angry humans. Thrin's ship approached the Tempest under a flag of truce. She was brought to Admiral Choi's quarters, where the old human sat alone at a simple desk. He did not stand when she entered. He did not offer her a seat. "You have 11 minutes," he said. "Speak." Thrin's scales changed color with surprise. This was not how negotiations usually began. But she was professional. She adjusted quickly. "Admiral, the Merthian Concordat offers itself as a neutral party. We can arrange a meeting between Earth and the Velith Dominion. A chance to discuss peace before more lives are lost. There will be no discussion. Surely you understand that war benefits no one. Both sides will suffer. Both sides will lose children, resources, futures." "We did not start this war," Choi replied coldly. "We are simply going to end it, but under what terms? What would satisfy humanity?" The Admiral stood and walked to a window showing the stars outside. "Our terms are simple. First, the Velith will surrender the person who ordered Chancellor Park's assassination. Second, they will pay reparations equal to 100 years of their total economic output. Third, they will completely dismantle their military. Every ship, every weapon, every soldier returned to civilian life." Thrin's jaw dropped open. "Those terms are impossible. The Velith will never accept. It would mean the end of their empire. Then the Velith will end. You cannot mean to destroy an entire species." Choi turned to face her. His eyes were empty of mercy. "We will not harm their civilians. We will not poison their worlds or burn their cities. But their ability to make war? Their fleets, their armies, their power to threaten others? We will remove it, completely, whether they agree or not." Thrin tried to argue. She used every trick she knew, every technique that had worked on dozens of other species. Nothing moved the Admiral. Nothing softened his resolve. 11 minutes after she arrived, she was escorted back to her ship. Her report to the Merthian Council was brief. "The humans cannot be reasoned with. They have decided to end the Velith threat permanently. Nothing will change their minds." The Council was stunned. But other species saw opportunity in the chaos. The Fenari were small beings, barely reaching human waists, with fur and large ears. For 2 centuries, the Velith had bullied them, stealing their technology and enslaving their people. Now they came to Earth with an offer. "We can help you build ships faster," their leader said. "Our engineering is the best in the galaxy. Give us materials, and we will give you a fleet that makes the Tempest look like a toy." Humanity accepted. The Asani lived on water worlds that the Velith had strip mined for rare minerals. Their oceans were poisoned, their children born sick. They came to Earth with something even more valuable than ships. "We know every Velith secret," their queen promised. "Their defense codes, their hidden bases, their emergency plans, everything. We will give it all to you." Humanity accepted. Dr. Nam Yoonji coordinated these new alliances from her office on the Tempest. She was exhausted, running on coffee and anger, but she understood what was happening. This war was changing everything. "We are building something new," she told Captain Yoon during a brief meeting. "Not just destroying the Velith. We are creating a new order. Every species that helps us is a species that will never have to fear the Dominion again." Yoon nodded slowly. The Chancellor spent 30 years trying to build alliances through kindness, and she was making progress. Real progress. But kindness only works when everyone plays by the same rules. Yoonji's voice hardened. The Veleth killed her because they thought breaking the rules made them strong. Now we are showing the galaxy what happens to rule breakers. Is that who we are now? The galaxy's police? No, we are the galaxy's reminder. Yoonji looked at the star map showing human forces spreading across Veleth space. A reminder that there are some lines you do not cross. Some sleeping giants you do not poke. Park Ji-woo listened to these conversations from her own ship. She had become more than just a chancellor's daughter. She had become a symbol. Human soldiers painted her name on their armor. Alien allies spoke of her with respect, but inside she felt only grief. Every night she dreamed of her mother. Sometimes the dreams were happy memories. Sometimes they were nightmares where she arrived too late to save her. Sometimes her mother spoke to her, asking why she had chosen violence over peace. Ji-woo did not have a good answer. She only knew that the galaxy had taken something precious from her, and she would make sure it never happened again, one way or another. 62 days after Chancellor Park's death, the human fleet arrived at Veleth Prime. The Dominion's homeworld was beautiful from space. Blue oceans, green forests, white clouds. It looked peaceful. It looked innocent. But everyone knew what lived on that world. The creatures who had started this war. The species who had murdered humanity's leader. High Sovereign Malrek had gathered everything he had left. Orbital defense platforms circled the planet like a ring of metal teeth. 2,000 warships formed a wall between the humans and his world. On the surface, 2 million soldiers waited with weapons ready. This was the Veleth's final stand. If they lost here, they lost everything. Admiral Choi studied the enemy positions from the Tempest's bridge. Around him, his officers waited in tense silence. This battle would decide the war. This battle would decide the future of the galaxy. Options? The Admiral asked. General Kwon Soo-jin stepped forward. She was a hard woman, famous for her brutal efficiency. We can bombard them from orbit. Use the main guns to destroy their surface defenses, then their cities, then everything else. We would win in hours with almost no losses on our side. That would kill millions of civilians. Yes, but it would end this quickly. Park Ji-woo spoke from her position near the main display. No. Everyone turned to look at her. She was not part of the military command. She had no official rank. But she was the Chancellor's daughter, and her word carried weight that titles could not match. My mother would never approve of killing innocents, Ji-woo said firmly. Even enemy innocents. She believed that how we fight matters as much as why we fight. If we become murderers, we lose something more important than any war. General Kwon frowned. Your mother is dead because she showed mercy. My mother is dead because one creature made an evil choice. We will not punish billions for the crimes of their leaders. Ji-woo looked at Admiral Choi. Ground assault. Targeted strikes. We take their leaders and end this cleanly. The Admiral was quiet for a long moment. He thought about Park Yuna, the woman he had served for 30 years. He thought about her gentle voice, her patient smile, her unshakable belief in humanity's better nature. Then he nodded. The Chancellor raised a worthy successor. We do this the hard way. Prepare for a ground assault. The attack began at dawn on Veleth Prime. Drop pods fell from the sky like metal rain. Inside each pod were sleeper soldiers in powered armor, carrying weapons that could cut through Veleth shells like paper. Captain Yu Mei-rei led the first wave, her forces landing directly on top of the planetary shield generators. The fighting was brutal. The Veleth were strong, bred for combat over thousands of years. Their natural armor could stop normal bullets. Their claws could tear through metal. They did not surrender. They did not run. But the humans were angry. And angry humans were something the galaxy had never seen before. Sergeant Han Taiwu fought beside his captain for 3 hours straight. He killed more Velith than he could count. He saved his squad a dozen times. He was a hero. Then an energy lance caught him in the chest. He fell slowly, his armor hissing as it tried to seal the wound. Captain Yoon caught him before he hit the ground. His blood was everywhere. "Captain," he whispered, trying to smile. "I think I finally get that vacation. You promised me. Don't talk. Medics are coming. No time." His eyes were fading. "Tell my sister. Tell her I was brave. You were the bravest." He died in her arms, still trying to smile. Lieutenant Baek Jisu saw Taiwu fall. Something broke inside her. She had already lost her family to the Velith. Now she had lost another brother. She charged the shield generator with a roar of rage. Velith soldiers tried to stop her. She cut through them like they were made of paper. Her weapon screamed. Her armor sparked from 100 impacts. She did not slow down. 6 minutes later, the generator exploded. The planetary shields fell. Human forces poured through the gap. Within hours, they had captured the capital city. Within a day, they had surrounded the palace. High Sovereign Malrek watched from his throne room as his empire collapsed. His guards stood around him, ready to die. His advisors begged him to flee. But he had nowhere to go, nowhere to hide. Then the doors opened, and Park Ji-woo walked in alone. Malrek's guards raised their weapons, but Ji-woo showed no fear. She carried nothing. She wore no armor. She was just a young woman walking toward the most dangerous creature in the room. "How did you get in here?" Malrek demanded. "Your servant passages are poorly guarded." Ji-woo stopped a few meters from his throne. "I wanted to speak with you before the soldiers arrive." "You came to gloat? To watch me die?" "I came to understand." Ji-woo studied the alien who had destroyed her world. "Why? You knew we would fight back. You knew we had power you could not see. Why did you provoke us?" Malrek's mouth twisted with contempt. "Because you were weak. Your chancellor stood before the galaxy and begged for peace. She smiled at those who insulted her. She offered friendship to those who hated her. We thought killing her would show the galaxy how pathetic humans truly were. You were wrong." "Yes." For the first time, Malrek's voice held something like respect. "We were wrong, but I do not regret it. Better to know the truth about your enemy than to live in comfortable lies." The doors exploded inward. Admiral Choi entered with soldiers, their weapons aimed at the sovereign. Ji-woo turned to face the admiral. "It is over. He will surrender. Will he?" Choi looked at Malrek with cold hatred. Malrek rose from his throne. He was tall, terrifying, covered in natural armor that had evolved over millions of years. He could probably kill several humans before they brought him down. Instead, he bowed his head. "I surrender. My people will pay whatever price you demand. Just spare them. They followed my orders. The fault is mine." Admiral Choi stared at him for a long moment. Then he lowered his weapon. "Take him to the ship. The war is over." 1 year later, a memorial stood on the station where Chancellor Park had died. They called it Park's Hope now. Representatives from 23 species attended the anniversary ceremony. Even the Velith sent a delegation, their new government trying to rebuild what Malrek had destroyed. Park Ji-woo stood before her mother's statue. The inscription read, "Humanity's strength lies not in our capacity for destruction, but in our choice of when to use it." "We almost forgot that," Ji-woo whispered. "We almost became what we were fighting against." Dr. Nam Yoonji stood beside her. "But we didn't. That is what matters. The galaxy had learned a lesson it would never forget. Humans preferred peace. They wanted friendship and trade and cooperation. They smiled at those who were kind to them. But when pushed too far, when their leaders were murdered and their patience was exhausted, they became something else entirely. They became a storm that swept across the stars, unstoppable and merciless. They became a tempest, and the galaxy would remember for 1,000 years.